All right, I just wanted to let everybody know that there has been further refinement to Big Country Baseball Time Advanced. This is version 1.6. This is available in the Candlelight Big Country Baseball Historical folder. Again, this is the advanced version of Big Country Baseball Time, and it is completely free. There was the original version 1.3, then 1.5, now the latest 1.6. I'll put a link directly to this so you can download it. So what's changed here? The other two versions I'll probably remove because there's no reason to keep them in here. But there's been further refinement to the Feld at Bat Fielder out roll. This is a D10 roll, and on 0, something special can happen in the game. So it's a logic paradigm, A through F, to complete the at bat. So let's say a batter's up, and it's a 3 rated pitcher versus a 3 rated batter. I would need a 23% and below to get a hit. Let's say I roll a 48, so it's an out. And then I pick up the third D10 and I roll. Let's say I roll a 0. You would then go through the logic paradigm starting with A. If it's true, then we're done. If it's not true, you continue down the list. So logic paradigm A through F. So let's say there's a man on first. When this happens, a pitcher with a plus rating would pick off the base runner, and that would be an out. Obviously, they have to be a base runner on to pick off a base stealer. If the base runner is also a plus, then the pitcher would just hold the runner, and we'd roll the at bat again. So it would be an attempted pickoff, and he holds the runner, and then we go back up and we roll my batter 23 and below to get a hit. Right. But let's say the runner is also not a plus. We would just roll the at-bat again, right? If the base runner is not a plus, we continue down the logic. If the base runner will steal the base if the pitcher is not a plus, right, then we'd roll the at-bat again, but we continue down. So because we have to make sure that the catcher is not a plus because he would throw the batter out stealing. I mean, not the batter, the base stealer. So the pitcher can pick off. If that doesn't happen, the base runner is a plus, and they're both pluses, then it's a hold. We roll the bat again. However, if the base runner is a plus, he can steal a base. If the pitcher cannot hold him, however, if the catcher is also a plus, he would throw out that base runner. So pitcher wins over a base runner with no plus. If they're both pluses, it's a stalemate. If the base runner is a plus and the pitcher's not, then he's going to steal. However, the catcher automatically will throw him out so you've got to go through this paradigm. Bang, 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 bang. If none of these are true, then we continue forward. If there's a man on base and there's any infielder that has a plus, let's say the second baseman has a plus, and we had that man on first, it would be a double play. So the batter, who originally felled the roll, would hit into a double play, and we go on to the next batter, right? If that's not true, no infielder is a plus, then you're going to look at the outfielders. If any outfielder is a plus, they would make a fly ball. They'd make a fly out at the wall. However, a plus base runner would automatically advance on a sac fly. Now remember here, it wouldn't matter because if a plus base stealer, if there's no catcher is a plus, no pitcher is a plus, he's going to steal a base anyway. However, you can also, so he would steal a base and be sacked over either to third or home. So you still want to finish the logic because an outfielder might make the catch. The base runner would advance again. So he could steal a base. It's a pop fly to the wall, but it was high enough that same base stealer, so that base stealer could go from second to third in one swing of the bat, right? One at bat. And last but not least, if all situations fail to have a single plus player, in other words, no pluses show up at all, in these logic paradigm, then it is a hit by pitch. So this failed at bat would actually lead to a hit by pitch, and the batter would take his base on a walk. He would be hit. So then we'd automatically move the first base runner to second, and we would have our, obviously. So just again, it's the thing I love about baseball is linear and it's logical. So all you have to do when you look at this logic paradigm is just go through the same logic that would happen in a baseball game. right? If I roll that, we got a roll, which would be an out, but the out turns into a pitcher. The out might be a pickoff of a base runner, and then we're still going to go back up here and roll a second swing of the bat, right? So the batter's not out, but the base runner was out, right? Base runner can be held. The base runner could get a chance at a jump, because the pitcher can't hold him, but a catcher of plus. So how valuable is a plus catcher? So let's say, for instance, a baseball team with a plus catcher is going to be huge, because he is going to stop any steal, basically. Okay, a pitcher plus is going to be rare, and all he can really do is pick off a base runner that's not a plus, which is fine, because there's going to be a lot of players that aren't rated plus, which makes the pitcher very effective at picking off potential base stealers. A plus base runner is fantastic, because if there's a team without a pitcher plus or on the mound, or a catcher plus, he's going to be able to take extra bases. Plus, he can turn a plus outfielder's fly out into a sac fly, taking an extra base, or taking a base on a sac fly, right? So, if all situations fail, in other words, teams that don't have any pluses, no base runners, no infielders, no outfielders with pluses, these would be, pretty bad teams defensively, pretty bad teams, but there's no pluses at all. Then it's going to be a hit by pitch. So we cover all bases now. But this was written in such a way, it was written in a linear fashion with semicolons, and I realized, why don't I just put this in order? Baseball is a linear, logical game, and that's part of what is really remarkable about baseball. And there's no reason, again, we can't cover all potential variables in this simple little baseball game. Roll to see if we get a hit. If we get a hit, that roll is going to tell us what kind of hit. And then, of course, if the batter fails to put bat to ball, then we're going to be rolling to see where the outs occur, or how the outs occur. And if we roll a 0, it's going to be a logic paradigm that creates all these different baseball environments, which is kind of fun. So they won't happen a lot. They'll happen 10% of the time. However, that 10% of the time in the course of a baseball game, or in the course of a season or a series, these things can be highlights. They can be very cool moments. Not cool. They can just be great baseball moments depending on the situations. So this is a situational logic paradigm. You start with A. If A is true, right? If A is not true, or if the base runner is also a plus, then it's a hold. However, if the pitcher is not a plus, the base runner will take a shot. However, if the catcher is a plus, he'll throw him out. If none of those things are true, there's a chance at a double play, or if any infielder is a plus with men on base. If that's not true, then an outfielder would make a catch at the wall, and a plus base runner would sac fly. Right? So you would say, holy cow, if none of this is true, how can that base runner who would have been handled up here, right, not have stolen the base? Well, he does. He would get a steal, but he could also get a sac fly in the same at bat. Right, so he steals a base, a plus base runner against this potential scenario, and happens to be a plus outfielder making the catch at the wall. That base runner would also take another bag. So this could be a very exciting situation here if you get that far in the logic. And finally, if there's just no pluses happening in the game at all, then it's a hit by pitch, and the batter gets a walk. And then, of course, up here we have normal strikeouts and walks. 90 to 98 is a strikeout for the batter who fails, right? And 99 is a walk for a batter who fails, right? You would have to roll a 90 through 99 to have these two things happen. And then anything that happens between 310, beyond 310, so 32% to 89%, you would roll an out chart, right? This is the out chart. So anyway, I thought I would let everybody know that I've rewritten this, and I've also included what a catcher. I mean, we should have the value of a plus catcher. It's a pretty big deal, right? And here's the great thing about a plus catcher, right? A plus catcher would stop that base steal, but also a plus catcher becomes that double play infielder that you need to make double plays. So you could have a pretty decent infield. But if you have a plus catcher, or a plus pitcher, they're going to qualify for that double play. So a pitcher is an infielder. So if a pitcher has a plus, that's going to kick up a double play. Or if the catcher is a plus, that's going to kick up a double play. So, a second baseman with a plus is valuable, turning a double play, but not as valuable as a catcher who can throw out a stealer, not as valuable as a pitcher who can pick off a base runner. So you can see how these plus values now have a greater weight. A plus catcher is worth a heck of a lot more to a baseball team. A plus pitcher is going to be huge. Obviously, a plus base runner could be very effective. Right, okay. So anyway, I just want to talk about that. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Again, further refinement as I've been playing and enjoying my Big Country Advanced baseball time with the historical teams. Further refinement required me to work on this over the last few days that I've been enjoying this, and I realized I want the catcher we need to have, because I was just playing a game where a catcher had a plus rating. I was like, oh damn, really should mean more than just their ability to turn a single into a double, etc. Right? So I wanted that to have a defensive value to it, and I wanted this written where now you could step through true or false, right? It's not quite true or false, so you have to be thorough in how you go through this, right? But know this, that the first plus that comes along is going to dictate much of the play. And eventually you're going to get down here where the only plus left is infield potential double play, or a outfielder fly out with a base runner taking a sac fly. And then again, you're going to get to the bottom where there's just no pluses at all, which means the pitcher. So this is going to happen, but it's going to happen on a rarity I think it should. Hit by pitch should be pretty rare, right? Tactically, you could choose to hit batter by pitch if you wanted to. You could literally choose to wave off the roll and hit a batter. That's baseball. That's the beauty of baseball. You could purposely walk a guy or purposely hit a guy, right? Now we're getting into a different kind of baseball strategy, right? Old school baseball, right? So anyway, long story short, I wanted to let everybody know that this file has been updated, and we're starting to see now further refinement of this very simple but full at-bat baseball engine for Big Country Baseball Time Advanced. All right, bye-bye.